What's up, guys? This is Fun Friday. Fun Friday. I'm Jermaine. Welcome back to my channel, The 91 Box. And on Fridays, I do Fun Friday, where I just talk about stuff that I like and just whatever I want to talk about. So before you guys go any further, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. So I have a TikTok, which you guys can go find on TikTok, called The 91 Box. I did a video maybe a couple of weeks back saying, like, on one of the Fridays, like, what I like. I'm really big into ninjas. And really, for me, like, where ninjas kind of stem from, it's just my childhood of being exposed to anime. I went from Pokemon to Digimon to Dragon Ball Z to card catchers to Zatch Bell, Bobo 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 Bobo, Sailor Moon, Code Geass, just a bunch of like the classic titles from, like, I'm gonna say early 2000s and up. So, but well, actually late 90s to early 2000s, and just in following up. But one of the big series that actually caught my attention in the anime community that I really love, in fact, I'm probably going to pull it up just so you guys can see. Let's do. Do I want to? Yeah, I'll put it up like that. Naruto. In fact, it keeps switching. But yeah, the Naruto series. So I'll have it right here. But essentially, this is around the time of Toonami. So Toonami, I'm going to just give Toonami a time slot of, I'm trying to think, because 01, I was 10. And then I don't think I was watching Toonami until like Naruto. I started catching wind of Naruto somewhere around like 14, 15. So I'm going to say like 2005 to 2009. I'm just going to say give or take. From 2005 to 2009, kind of like my high school years. Maybe a little bit before high school, but I was very much into Naruto. Still am into Naruto. I am a fan of Naruto. One of my favorite characters is Itachi Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha, the Uchiha brothers. In fact, the Uchiha clan is like my favorite ninja clan in Naruto. And I'm just fascinated with the Japanese culture, the language, the samurais, the ninja, the katanas, the food, the people, the art style. I'm a big artist. And I realized from young, since I was like 8 years old up until now, the Japanese culture has had a big influence on me. So just years of fun with my friends. I'm a big nerd. It goes down to like all the RPGs, playing Xbox 360, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't have the fifth PlayStation, and I'll probably touch on that in a little bit. Playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards, playing Duel Masters, playing Magic for a little bit. I'm just into, some might consider me an otaku, which is kind of like a fan of anime, or that kind of thing, fan of anime or Japanese culture or whatever. But just really, really love a lot of aspects of anime and manga. Don't love everything about it. There are some things within anime and manga that kind of like turns me off from it. Excuse me. But I'm very much a fan of ninjas. If I could become one, I would. But that brings me to one of like my favorite games of when I first got my hands on it, Ninja Gaiden. Now I pull up Ninja Gaiden Sigma because Ninja Gaiden first came out for the Xbox. For some of you guys out there who knows, you know what I'm talking about. Then they remastered it when they brought it to, I believe, the PlayStation 3, either PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. But they do this thing where they'll make a game and then when the new generation comes out, they remaster it and put that same game with better graphics. Maybe they fix some of the bugs and they might add a couple of things here or two into the next game, which gives an incentive for the person to rebuy this classic game that they like, but with a little bit more features. So Ninja Gaiden is one of those games from back in the day where if you was a hardcore gamer and you were into combos, learning different button combinations to destroy your enemies, this was the game for you. I know like a lot of gamers right now, like a segment of gamers, they're not really into really difficult games. Like something I talked about before was Elden Ring. I'm a fan of Japanese developers, really big fans of how they think and I mean they're the originators of a lot of these RPGs or just like the gaming culture in general, just because of how their mind works and the thought and the expertise they put into creating these games. I'll tell you why I don't have the PS5. So for me, it came down to finances. I had to make a decision if I was going to put my money into a console that had a certain selection of games, which were limited, but also right now in my life, not really having the time, or better, I should better say, redistributing my time when it comes to going to work, me making videos, me spending time with my wife and my son, going to church. Really have to figure out how I'm going to spend my time wisely. Early on, when the PS5 came out, it was around the pandemic, and the scalping situation really turned me off from the whole entire process where you couldn't even get your hand on a PS5. But at that time, I didn't have the money for a PS5. And then as time goes on, I would have the money for a PS5, but I already had the PS4. And I had responsibilities I have to take care of. And time kept going on and kept going on and kept going on. And I have a PS4 and I have other games that I'm into. And there's games that I'm getting for the PS4. So I'm thinking to myself, in fact, wait a minute, guys, hold on. I am thinking to myself, you know what? I already have a gaming laptop. Like the laptop I'm using is a gaming laptop, but I mostly use it for work. But if I want to play games on it, I can. Then I have my PlayStation 4, and I got a bunch of games for that. Then I have a couple of handheld systems that I have emulators on, playing old games on those. And I got my cell phone, which I can download mobile games. So I have an abundance of games, and there's this new system that has a certain price range to it. And again, I'm still into it. I'm still interested. There are games on the PlayStation 5 that I would love to play, but I just realized it wasn't worth it. You know, to me, it would just be wasting more money when I already have a lot of other games that I haven't beaten yet. As tempting as it is, I just decided I'll wait till my son gets older. Like once he's probably like 10, 11, or 12, whatever the new console is, and he's into it and he's aware of it, like, hey, dad, let's get this console. I'll get it. And we'll have fun playing it together because I'm still young enough to where I have the energy, just keeping energy to playing the actual games and having the attention span to focus and the competitiveness of winning. So yeah. For the PS4, there's actually a couple of games I still want for it. And one of them is the Ninja Gaiden collection, where it has Ninja Gaiden 1, Ninja Gaiden 2, and Ninja Gaiden 3. The third game I do not care about, so if I beat it, it's just because it's there. But I already beat Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 when I had them for the previous consoles, for the PS3. And I think, well, Xbox 360 was Ninja Gaiden 2, and then the PS3 had Ninja Gaiden Black. It was Ninja Gaiden Black or Ninja Gaiden Sigma. But which actually you can see right here. It shows Ninja Gaiden Black, and then you got Ninja Gaiden Sigma. Anyway, really big fan of ninjas. And everything about Ryu Hayabusa, like some of you guys don't know, I found out about him through Dead or Alive. He's a fighting character in that game, and then I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe he was like a fan favorite. They decided to make an entire series based off of this ninja character in this fighting game, Dead or Alive. And he can fight. He's good at hand-to-hand combat, martial arts, and he knows how to use a katana. Part of the Dragon Clan. In fact, I actually want to. Recently, they came out with Ninja Gaiden 4. So I'm actually going to play some of this. I may not play all of it, but you got this new guy, Yakumo, and then you have Ryu to the right, which, again, Ninja Gaiden 4 is for the PS5. This is one of the games for the PS5, which I would love to have at this moment. I would love to have it. But also, you know what? They also have this game for Steam, and I do have a Steam account. If I want to, I could get the game for my gaming laptop, but I don't want to push my processor in that way. So, but let's get into the video. Let's check it out. Yakumo is much faster, but Ryu Hayabusa is slower but has more skill. In fact, in the game, they call Ryu Hayabusa the Super Ninja. He's definitely the OG.
Umi, Misaki, I'm on its tail. It won't get away this time.
Yeah, let's get Sayori out of there.
Oh, I do hope she's all right.
I'm thinking to myself, did Ryu Hayabusa ever walked on water? Walked on water like my savior, Jesus Christ. But now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember he used to walk on water. It might have been in the first game or the second game, but yeah, it's okay, babe. This is like a cool video. Anyway, he's a master ninja, Ryu Hayabusa. I wonder how old is Ryu Hayabusa compared to Yakumo. I think I would assume Yakumo. He's a much younger ninja. He's new to the Ninja Gaiden franchise. Like he's introduced into this game. Um, his technique his technique set looks very interesting. Dual wield sword combo. Um, Also, he can extend his katanas. Seems like he adds like a some kind of blood essence on his blades to like make them longer and cut through his enemies. Really cool stuff. The water run is actually pretty cool. Dude. So I actually like that. This rail surface. I think this is a new thing you can do in Ninja Gaiden. I don't think it was in the old game. But I mean, I like it. It's very interesting. I would expect nothing less of it. And I think Yakumo like sliding on the rails is a lot cooler. Like Ryu like rail running, it's okay. That's fine. But I like the gliding aspect or skating aspect on the rails. It kind of reminds me of like Sonic Heroes. Because a couple of Sonic games, they'll grind on rails. And I love rail grinding. I think that's cool. Ryu like running super fast. It's actually yeah. I'm gonna stop it there. I'll probably put the full link to the video in the description box below, so you guys can go check it out if you want. So I want to know in the comment section, like, what's your favorite type of warrior in history? Is it the knight? Is it a paladin? Is it a samurai? Is it a ninja? Is it some kind of Viking lord? You know, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Maybe it's a Roman centurion. For me, like in history, I would choose a ninja. Again, they're pretty cool. Like covering yourself up, you know, cloaking yourself, the techniques that they use, the tricks that they use to kind of like defeat their enemies. There was something I was reading up about in history, in the Japanese history at one point, where the ninjas were more so like bandits and thieves. They did little tricks here and there to kind of like steal, and I'm not sure if some of them were skilled with the katana, maybe, but the ninjas of antiquity are not necessarily ninjas of fantasy. You know, there's things that's embellished, but I gotta do some more research on that. So yeah, but before we go, I want to check out this video with Wes Huff. Shout out to Wes Huff for all the success that God has blessed him with. This video titled "We Got the Bible by a Vote," and Wes Huff responds. I don't know if I'll play the whole video, but I think I'll play part of it just to. So you know what? Let's just get into the video.
Jesus wasn't a Christian. He was a Jew, and he didn't come to create a religion. The Bible, as we know it, didn't even exist when Jesus walked the earth. Not when Paul wrote his letters, not when Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John recorded their accounts. The Bible was literally compiled hundreds of years later by a pagan emperor for political reasons. That should tell you something. Now, does that mean we throw the Bible out? No, I love the Bible. I read the Bible every day.
It's the most important thing. So I do want to say this. So before Wes Huff responds, This is the difference between a pastor and a skeptic. Skeptics like myself, be as accurate as possible when you are talking about the Bible. How do we get the Bible? What is the Bible? How was it compiled? These different things. And as a skeptic, when I hear historians talk about the Bible, I lean towards the historians of how do they present the Bible, the scholarly approach. Um, Now, the pastoral approach is okay because some people need different things when you are communicating the truth of the Bible. You know, some people may not care about all of those details. Others who are skeptics who want to know, is this from God or is this from man? They want to know those details and what is the tradition behind it. So I appreciate this guy for saying this stuff. And Wes Huff is a historian. We're around the same age, in our 30s. Man, it's nice seeing people around my age like serving the Lord. But let's continue.
Most important book of my life. But it does mean we have to stop worshiping it like it's God and be honest with ourselves and start listening to the truth that is behind it. And if you doubt me, do your own research. The Bible was literally voted on by a bunch of politicians and bishops in a room deciding what made the cut and what didn't, out of mounds of texts, centuries after the fact. That's like building your spiritual life around the minutes of a corporate board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know some people, when they hear that, they object, like, oh, it's done by politicians and bishops. I can't trust it. The guy in the video said, no, we do not throw it out. So let's hear what Wes Huff had to say.
Yes, Jesus was a Jew, and no, he didn't come to start a religion. He came to fulfill that which was prophesied about him already. Those first Christians were Jews who believed in Jesus as the Messiah, prophesied to be so centuries before his birth. And when they believed that, they didn't cease to become Jews. They weren't converting to a new religion. At the point of their belief, they were arguably more Jewish than they had ever been before. The law, the prophets, and the writings, that's a short form for the 39 books of the Old Testament, by the way, were fulfilled in Jesus. Jesus wasn't Christian because the word Christian is a descriptor of those that believed and followed Jesus Christ. It comes post-Jesus because Jesus can't follow himself. The Bible, as we know it, didn't exist when Jesus walked the earth. But that's because Jesus's followers hadn't written it down yet.
Yes, yes. A lot of people don't know this. I didn't know this even when I first came to faith. I wasn't always a Christian. I had questions about the Bible and if Christianity was true, and even wrestling with my own sin nature. And I was conflicted. I felt like there was a lot of tension going on within my heart where part of me didn't know if it was true or not. And then the other part of me felt like it was true. And maybe I just didn't want to give in to this God to follow these rules, to tell me what to do on how I should live. And I think thirdly, I didn't have an understanding of what the Bible was and how was it relevant to a 21st century Black man like myself. Like, how was this ancient text relevant to my life in the modern time? I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. But God was gracious with me, and Jesus Christ still reached out for me because he died for me. He wants me to know him and make him known to other people, like right now what I'm doing. So yes, at the time of Jesus, there was not a Bible. There was the Jewish text that they had, because the Jewish text, which is like the Torah or I think I believe the Tanakh. In fact, let me just look this up real quick. What Tanakh? Okay, we'll put that as. Okay, let's see. The Tanakh is the Hebrew Bible, the sacred text of Judaism, and consists of 3 sections. All right, so the Tanakh. So of Jesus' time, they had the Tanakh. Here's what the Tanakh is. It's the Torah, which is known as the 5 first books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and Numbers. Those are the first 5 books, which is known as the law, which is Torah. So that's part of the Hebrew Bible. Then you have the Nevi'im, which is the prophets, and then the Ketuvim, the writings. So let's see. The Tanakh has, we got 66 books. I'm thinking the Tanakh is somewhere around like 49 or something like that. So of Jesus' time, they had the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. But the New Testament writings didn't come till later. The other books that as Christians, as Protestants, we have. Okay, sorry about that. So that's what, at the time, they didn't have the Bible. But let's hear what Wes Huff has to say for this. The Bible came later, but let's continue.
Paul, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John couldn't have access to something they wrote prior to them writing it. And with all due respect, the Bible was not compiled hundreds of years later. We have Christians reading, quoting, even writing whole commentaries for nearly all of the books of the Bible shortly after these documents were written. Clement of Rome, for example, wrote an entire letter at the end of the first century, the century that Jesus and the apostles lived, where he makes 111 direct or indirect, partial or potential quotations of biblical books as authoritative scripture. If you take the late dating of John's gospel, that means that Clement is writing within a decade of John's biography of Jesus.
Now, I want to point out something about this. So the guy said hundreds of years. Again, I appreciate the first guy's commentary. It seemed like he wants Christians to be as accurate as possible when breaking down the stuff to people, because a lot of people don't know, and he wants them to know. Now, with Wes Huff is saying, he's talking about the late dating. So I believe that's the more liberal dating from like secular scholars. So you have Christian scholars and you have secular scholars. Secular scholars don't take early datings for the New Testament writings. They give more later datings. So they go late. How they determine that, they have their own criteria. But Jesus died and rose again somewhere and ascended sometime around, I'm going to say sometime around 33 AD to 38 AD. But you'll hear, you'll hear 33 AD commonly. If the book of John wasn't written until the year 90 AD, that's about 60 years later, roughly 60 years later of the writing. Now, let's see. Martin Luther King passed away 1968 or something like that, which is that's roughly 60 years. I'm guessing. Roughly 60 years. Wait, is it roughly 60 years? I'm going to do the math. We'll say you add 40, you got 2008, then 2008. If you had another 2 years. So Martin Luther King died roughly 60 years ago. And we still have some people who were around at that time to have known him and have, if they didn't meet him, they were around him indirectly or knew someone that knew him. And they can ask people who were around at that time to find out who Martin Luther King was, what did he teach, what did he do, how did he live, and how did he die. And we do this all the time. But, you know, people don't use the same standard that when it comes to other things, they don't use that same standard when it comes to Christianity, because Christianity makes such bold claims about reality. People unfairly judge it. They're like, well, I don't see that much evidence from it, so I'm not going to go there. But you know what? That's okay. Our jobs as Christians is to tell you about the truth. Whether we're convincing or not, ultimately doesn't matter. I mean, look, I'll say this. If you are a very compelling person, then use that gift that God has given you to be convincing and to tell people. But for someone like myself or whoever that may not be as convincing, our job is just to tell you and to be faithful. That's it. When we're faithful to God and we're doing what we're supposed to do, is just telling people, we've done our job. Now, I want to get better in terms of communicating my points to people. But at the same time, I know it's not all on me. So I'm not going to go any further into this. If you want to watch the full video, I'll have that link in the description box below so you guys can check it out. But guys, Fun Friday. We're going to do this. This is something I do every Friday where I just talk about stuff that I like. If you like it, let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, again, what's your favorite warrior? You can put it in the comment section below. Or what's your favorite video game? You know, are you into gaming? Are you not? Like, what are you into? Let me know. I'm going to try to, when I figure out how to do live videos, I'm going to try to put that in here. I'm going to try to do lives just to get y'all's thoughts and maybe do some Q&As. We'll see. All right, this is Jermaine. I'm signing out. Peace.